And now it's time for a preview of an upcoming game by Tom Vasel.
I'm a big fan of tower defense games. Those are those games that people play on a computer where you build towers and monsters march towards you and you keep shooting the monsters until eventually you die. You're going to die. You're going to, well, most of the games anyway, the monster's going to come, but you want to see how long you can last. Well, that's the concept of the game that I'm going to show you today. This is a game called Mage Tower, a tower defense card game. And you have this Mage Tower, that's you, in essence, and monsters are coming towards you, and you have to shoot them and also put down guys who will slow them down and fight them. And your goal is simply to outlast the other players, to make their lives a little bit more miserable in the, and hopefully have them destroyed before you're destroyed. Let's take a look at how the game plays. Each player has two decks in this game. They have a monster deck, which is set of various different monsters. And then each player also is going to get a deck made up of a knight, 2 archers, and 2 elite archers, and then 8 other cards. Now, where do these 8 other cards come from? Well, there's 170 different cards to pick from. There's a whole huge amount of cards that you're going to use, and you're going to get 8 of them. Now, you can take them randomly, or you can do what the game suggests where you draft the cards, but you're going to get 8 of those cards. Those cards will be added to your deck, and so you'll have 2 decks that you're shuffling, one here and one here. You're going to start the game with 2 cards, 2 player cards, and then players will take turns one at a time. On a player's turn, the first thing they'll do is they will draw 2 cards and add them to their hand, and each player will also get a gold. And at this point in time, as I always do, I should mention that the components in this game are not final. Some of the artwork might be final, some of the stuff might be final, but again, this is just a prototype, so keep that in mind. The next thing a player is going to do is monsters are going to be attacking. Now, as I said, this is a tower defense game, and so the monsters will come marching in. You'll be drawing them from this pile. Now, let's take a look at this monster here. At the top is a cost for that monster to come on the board. And then we have an attack and life value of the monster. So the giant here costs 5. So I place him here in the first spot. He's the closest monster coming towards me. I then look, and here's an ogre who costs 3. So I have a total cost of 8 coming out. And here's a hellhound that costs 2. So, and this says the hellhound enters the battlefield angry, so that means I put him upside down. Upside down creatures are angry. Now I brought a total of 10 value of monsters on the board, so I'm done bringing monsters onto the board. You can bring 10 to 12, so as soon as you hit 10 to 12, you will stop adding more monsters. If you go over, you discard a monster, and then you just keep bringing on monsters till you get to 10 to 12 new points worth of monsters. Then, after that, I have 7 energy that I have to play cards. So I can play cards, and what I'm going to be doing with these cards is I'm going to be attempting to destroy these monsters, to stop these monsters from getting me. And so many of the player cards that you have will have different costs at the top of them. For example, here we have an archer that costs 2 of my 7 energy, and this says deal 3 damage, and it has an arrow. When that happens, that means I do 3 damage to this first monster, and if I had killed him, it would carry through. Well, I didn't kill him because this giant here has a hit value of 5, but he has 3 points of damage once I play that archer. I could have played an elite archer who does 5 damage. I can play that afterwards. You can see this one costs 4 energy, so I've used now 6 of my energy. So that does 5 damage. So 2 more to the giant, which kills the giant, and then 3 more to the ogre, so who's almost dead. Now, that's basically all I have energy for. I have 1 energy left, but I really can't do much about it. So I then discard the cards that I played, and we go on to the next player's turn. Now there's a couple more things. When a player starts their turn with monsters, if the monster is not angry, he becomes angry. If a monster is angry, they will attack the player and do damage equal to their attack value. Here the hellhound will do 1 damage. Now when you take, each player has 20 life, and so as you take hits, you're going to be reducing your life. You'll keep track of your life with counters, and When you're out of life, you're out of the game. And then after the monsters have attacked you, they're discarded. They go away, they hit you, and they run. Other monsters become angry, and then you'll bring out 10 to 12 more points worth of monsters. And so you're going to continue to have a line of monsters that are just going to keep coming and coming and coming. But let's talk about some of the cards that you have, because there's a huge variety of cards. One of the cards that you can do is called a Defender. These are cards that will come out and will fight the monsters for you. When you bring out Defenders, they can go out and fight monsters, and they have an attack and defense too, and they'll fight the monsters to do damage, but the monsters will also do damage to these guys, which is permanent. When they're destroyed, you discard them and they can come back out again. But there are quite a few different style cards. As I said, every card in that giant deck was different. So there's all sorts of Defenders that you can bring out. Let's take a closer look at some of the possible cards that you can get. There's many more than this. You have other Defenders that can come out. You have equipment that you can place on the Defender, like this giant club or this Warhammer. You have, here's another Defender, a Prince who's a 3/3, or a Skeletal Apprentice. And each of these has different abilities, and they also have different energy costs as you play these people. You also have permanent cards that will stay in front of you until it's gone for some reason. Like, for example, this permanent here, I can pay 2 energy, sacrifice a Defender, and destroy the closest monster. Many of the permanents that you put out will have energy that you can play in the future. You also just have straight ability cards, which can do damage and do different things. For example, this one does 2 damage to a monster and 2 damage to each other monster with the same name. Or this one does 2 burning damage, which is doubled against a non-angry monster, but then you lose a life. So there's all sorts of abilities here. You draw 2 cards, and each opponent needs to discard 2 cards. So there's different kinds of abilities and things that you can play. You even can play a monster. You wouldn't play that on yourself. You would put that in somebody else's monster attack zone, and it will often also usually do a benefit to you or just hurt them. For example, here at the beginning of this player's turn, each of their opponents draws a card. So you want to put that on your opponent to force him to have to which gives you more cards. Also, hey, it gives him another monster to take care of. You have gold at the beginning of your turn, and there are four cards over here on the side of the board. One of them is another monster that comes out. The demon, when he gets angry, demon spawn come and join your lineup. But there's 3 other cards that you can buy. Now these cards are great because they cost 0 energy to play them. They simply cost gold to buy them. And then when you play them, they're very good. Like, see this one here? This one, you get 2 energy, and then you get to draw a card as long as you didn't buy summoning this turn. This one here lets you draw a card, and you can draw another card as long as you didn't buy intellect this turn. This one here does 2 damage, and you draw a card as long as you didn't buy it this turn. So this can really buff up your deck, but they cost gold, and you're only getting 1 gold per turn unless you have cards that can bring in other gold. So you have to keep an eye out on that, but once these get into your deck, you'll become more powerful. Hopefully you're not dead at that point. And that's basically how you play. The last person who is still alive is the winner. Mage Tower is a game that's very interesting. There's some really interesting aspects, like I said. One of them is the fact that you're always going to play a different game. I mean, the difference of 8 cards is immense. Now, for my first couple games I played where I drew cards randomly, and that was interesting, but the draft is very fun. You get to look and say, okay, what cards I want to take, and you try to take cards that will work together and that will help you. Now, you'll think that a 13-card deck seems small, and it does, but it makes you treasure those cards more, and you have to utilize those cards the best that you can to destroy the monsters coming in. The monsters are the same for everybody. There's different ones. There's big ones like the Giant. Then there's annoying ones like the Hellhound who comes in already angry, so you better deal with him quickly. And there is a slow slog. You're going to die. There's nothing you do about it. There are 10 points worth of monsters comes out. You usually can't destroy them all, so you have to sometimes pick and choose which ones you destroy and playing your cards correctly. The buying the cards for gold, the game looks a little complex, but it's very simple. Once you understand how to play it, there's not a ton of interaction between players, but there is some. You can play cards, monsters and other things in other people's rows. You're watching what they're doing, and also there are several cards in the game that directly affect other players, and you can draft those into your deck or or not. That's up to you and how you want to play. Do you want to play cards that help you and benefit you, or do you want to play cards that will let you go after other people? So does it feel like a tower defense game? I really think so. And so if you're interested in this one, it's on Kickstarter, but you better go get it now because the Kickstarter is coming to an end. I'm going to put up the link in just a second. So that's Mage Tower, tower defense card game.
Thanks for watching our review today. For more information about board games, as well as the #1 board game audio podcast, check out Dicetower.com for reviews, interviews, and more. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.